Do you prefer standing and talk, or would you like to move the microphone where you can sit at the table?
Me?
Yes. Does it matter? It don't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, all right, well, if y'all are ready, we'll get started.
Yep.
There we go.
That'd be easy just to move to the table there. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Uh-oh, you hung up? Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
I'm good.
Okay. If I can, welcome everybody to May 6th work session. It's 4:03. If I get approval agenda at this time, please.
So moved, Chairman.
You got a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. This work session is a board interview for a tax assessor. Ms. Gay, we thank you for coming, and we're going to turn it over to Mr. Risner. He's going to have some questions to ask you, and then we'll go from there.
All right.
This is a new format. We decided to start doing interviews a few months back, and so we can get a feel and make sure everybody understands what they're getting into for that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So to start, just can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and how it might relate to property assessment, real estate, local government, or taxation?
I worked for the tax assessor's office for 5 years here in Jones County.
All right. And then why are you interested in serving on the Board of Assessors? What experiences do you have that you think would make you a good candidate? And then I guess what motivates you to serve on the Board of Assessors? And what do you hope to contribute? So sort of several things wrapped up.
Well, I was asked to fill out the application. It came by surprise. They said they really needed me, that I had experience in it, so I would know a little bit about what was going on. And that's the reason why I filled out the application. I mean, there's not much more to say.
All right. So you know some about the assessment process already, but how would you approach learning about the property assessment process and the responsibilities of the Board of Tax Assessors?
Repeat that.
How would you approach learning about the property assessment process and the responsibilities of the Board of Tax Assessors?
Well, I've been through some classes. I was an appraiser 1. So I know a little bit already, but mostly I did mobile homes and conservation, so I know a lot about that. As far as appraising, I did not appraise any homes or anything, but I'm willing to learn what I need to learn to be on the board.
All right. Can you describe a time when you had to make an impartial decision, perhaps based on incomplete or conflicting information under pressure, and what was the outcome?
You always just listen to the good and the bad and make the right decision and pray that it's the right decision. I mean, you go with your fellow people to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
All right. If you had a disagreement with a fellow board member regarding an assessment decision, how would you handle that? And then what would be your approach to getting to a consensus where everybody is on the same page?
Well, I would hope there would never be a disagreement, but first of all, you have to talk about it and be reasonable. Listen to the sides, why they think it's wrong, why you think it's right, and make that decision between all of you.
All right. What do you perceive as the primary challenges in our property assessment process? How would you address them within the framework of state law?
I feel like a lot of things in Jones County has never been valued the way it was supposed to be valued in the first place, not by state code, but that's neither for me to say or anybody else. But I feel like everything needs to be got up to par. We need to get it back where it was supposed to be, so Jones County can make money. I mean, because I feel like we've lost out on a lot.
All right. How would you communicate changes in property valuations to taxpayers in a way that builds trust and minimizes confusion?
Well, they need to be explained to things in Jones County has been undervalued for a while, and we need to bring it back to par. And I know it's gonna be a sticker shock when everybody realizes that what has went on in the past. This is something that was brought to the other board's attention when Miss Linda left and Tony was hired. We all wrote in a letter and we told them what we had found out, and no one listened. This is something that we knew that was gonna happen. We all knew it was gonna happen eventually. It was just the fact of the matter of the time that it showed its ugly head, basically.
All right. Let's see. What does fairness in property assessment mean to you, and how would you apply that principle as a board member?
Fairness is what everybody else is paying in the state of Georgia. We've got to compare. I know we're not Atlanta levels, but we are a pretty decent sized county, and I feel like that we need to be up to par with all counties.
All right. Have you ever been in a role where you were responsible for ensuring that others carried out their duties effectively, and how did you handle that responsibility?
Yes, I owned a restaurant for 3 years, so.
All right. The board, as you know, provides oversight of the chief appraiser and their staff. How would you ensure that they're effectively carrying out their responsibilities while maintaining a collaborative relationship?
I think as a board member, we all need to pitch in to help support them, to be willing to do anything that they need us to do, even if it's coming into the office and working side by side with them to help them out. Whatever needs to be done, basically, to get us back to where we need to be.
All right. How would you balance providing oversight with allowing the chief appraiser and the staff the independence to perform their professional duties?
Repeat that?
How would you balance providing that oversight with allowing the chief appraiser and the staff the independence to perform their professional duties?
I would not be involved unless they need my help. I would do whatever I could to help them out. Basically, just giving that helping hand wherever they need it at.
Okay. And then how would you balance the needs of the county with those of individual property owners?
However I needed to. I mean, basically, if I need to sit down and talk to someone, I would. However, whatever they need of me.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the last on the list of questions I have. And I think, Chairman, what we did last time was just kind of go around the board and any questions the board might have for
We'll
you.
start with Commissioner Martin.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, I almost didn't recognize you. I'm like,
I
wait a
did.
minute.
Look, I sat out there and looked at her forever, and then I realized, oh, that's Jim.
Yeah, 155 pounds different.
Amen.
Yes,
It's amazing. Good Lord. Come ride a bike. You need to do what
hey,
you're
just
doing.
bought me one.
Okay. So, of course, you've had experience. You've seen what the office has been, and evidently it's not much different than when you left it. If you could wave a magic wand and make some changes, what would you change based on what you know?
Honestly, I did not know a lot of things that was going on until I came up here and I got informed. And then I started researching and looking. But ideally, it's going to take a while to have a lot of changes done in that office because it's so far behind. I think they need a new chief appraiser in there that is willing to get in there and get the work done. I think the people in the office can do the work. I think that it just was not overseen the way it should have been overseen. To push them to do what needed to be done. That's like the reevaluations. They know that every 3 years it has to be reevaluated. Why it was not done, I don't know. I've been gone from there for 5 years, so it's kind of hard to say what they have and haven't done. But ideally, in a magical world, everybody would do their job and know what they're supposed to do and know every 3 years what needs to be done and get it done. That's nor here nor there. You know, you can't make them, but they need somebody to oversee to make sure everything is done the way it's supposed to be done.
Well, as a board member, we're expecting you to make them.
Right. And I think, that wasn't done the way it was supposed to be done. It wasn't handled the way it was supposed to be handled.
Good. Training-wise, and I know you went through some trainings. Do you remember if you did all of your stuff in Georgia? Was it all in person?
Yes, like I said, I did, I got to appraiser 1, I also did mobile homes, got certified in that. So I've been through a little bit of the trainings, yes.
Do you think it's of value to have everybody cross-trained to do all of the different functions?
I really believe they should be. I really think that all of them need to be cross-trained. I even think the girls up front need to be appraisers. I mean, because, you never know when somebody's going to be sick, when they're going to be out, when you need to do somebody else's job. You never know what's going to happen. So I do believe everybody should be cross-trained into doing everything.
I look forward to you implementing that change. I'm all done.
I have no questions for you. Pretty much, you know what the problems lie in there because you've worked there.
Right.
And you know what it's going to take to fix them.
Yep.
And you know that working together is going to make that accomplished. So you touched all of my questions, so.
Mr. Kisson?
I'll follow up a little bit on Daylon's range of questioning. I think that's a good path. So, do you know, or can you think of any processes, policies, or procedures that should be changed in the department to make it more effective or more efficient from when you were there? I know it's been 5 years, but.
I'm not sure what has actually went on because I know I wasn't there long when Tony got there. So everything was changed from when Linda was there. But I'm not sure what Tony implemented. When he started, this is not my circus, not my rodeo thing. It was time for me to leave. So I don't know what they've implemented down there since I left, honestly.
So I guess my next part probably be more comments than questions, but again, I think it follows along with Commissioner Martin's comments and I think our expectations. I think part of where we got to as a board of commissioners is either some people were put on a board just because they applied for it. Some people were recommended and they just kind of moved into the role. I don't think we as a board done our job to make sure that we had the right people in the right place to get the right job done. And that's no fault of board members or people. It's what you do after you get into position. So I think I won't say smarter, but we're more wise on what's needed now and the expectation of the board to make sure that department does what it needs to be doing. And that's whether it's policies, whether it's processes, whether it's relationships, like you said, in the department or with the public when they come in. When it really struck with me when you said, I'm willing to sit down with anybody and explain the right way. And that's all we all expect and need is the right way. So I was really glad to hear that. And I think the experience that you have of knowing how the department runs and the office runs is invaluable when it comes to the leadership needed to make sure the department does that. So
I know for the 5 years that I was in there, I never see any board member in that office unless it was board day. They never come in, they never talked about anything. What was said in here. They never came to the office, they never spoke with none of us other than the day we were in here you know, passing or not passing the conservation or mobile homes or whatever. Other than that, we never spoke to them. That's the way I felt, because we never saw them.
And that's the double-edged sword that we get bit by so often, or boards get bit by so often, is when the board doesn't know what staff is doing and the staff doesn't know what the expectation is from the board, they're working in silos and things happen, and then nobody knows why they're happening or how to fix them.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, when we learn about things like we have on this board, where our values are inconsistent or our values are so out of whack, where when we start getting notified, it's the state going, hey, you're fixing to have a real problem here.
Right, right.
And then it's always, wasn't my fault, it was their fault, wasn't their fault, the board, you know. So when we hear things like, we never saw the board, or the board says, well, you know, the office did this on their own, that's an issue for us, because it should be the board should be directing the office of how to do things and making sure
That it's done.
that it's done. That's their whole responsibility, is making sure that the office is run effectively and efficiently. And at the end of the day, we all get fair and equitable values
Right.
across the county. So, thank you. That's, yeah, I'm glad to see your experience. To me, it speaks volumes with knowing the process and all, so.
I made a comment as far as somebody asked you to do it, which is great. I think Ms. Shannon will tell you that we've had this position open for how long?
It's been a while.
And people would inquire about it, and once they realize that they're going to have to take classes, or Commissioner Martin's made, you know, we just appointed people to fill positions rather than appointing people to, you know, take the position and be a leader with it. And I cannot tell you the number of people that I've heard that said, well, we're thinking about it. We've got to go to class, and we've got to do this and do that, and it's a responsibility. And this board that we're interviewing for, I would put it up with this board here, because it affects the community
Right.
just as much on one end as this board does on the other. And it takes the two working together and being accountable, and that's what we've needed for quite some time.
I agree.
Yeah, I would say, don't be afraid to change, because you know the old way,
Right.
and maybe a little taste of the new, or what's new is happening. Don't be afraid to break something, right? And that means throw it away. And don't be afraid to create something new, because if it doesn't exist, you have to create it.
Right.
You know, there were some things that we learned that we didn't have a policy for, a procedure. And that comes down to even the chief assessor. He reports to you all. He's your employee.
Right.
And he should take direction from you. And at the end of the day, it was like, is that the wagon leading the horse, right?
Yeah.
When it's not happening. So we want the horse in front, and then him and the wagon following.
Right.
And that's different, because some boards don't know that they have that power and that responsibility. And yours, like no other, has that authority to make policy, to introduce procedures, and work collaboratively with other departments, because zoning and planning,
Right.
you know, and you know there was a disconnect,
There was.
and so it probably still exists, so fix it,
Right.
or create
Exactly.
new.
Yeah.
Um,
And
That's all I
that's
got.
somebody you've got to be in with them, you've got to be in with Mr. Bryan, and you've got to work together. I mean, and not working together, it causes a big old mess,
It does.
a big old mess.
Commissioner Wood, you got here, but you got any questions?
I was going back to your time period. You worked approximately 4.5, 5 years for the tax assessors, and then you moved over to the elections office?
Yes, sir.
How long did you work there?
I was there a year.
A year, okay. And then you just decided to pursue other ventures after that, maybe?
I went out and opened a restaurant for
Okay.
3 years.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. And I remember you, when I served on the tax board, I remember you coming in and presenting things to the Board of Assessors at that time, and, you know, we thank you for helping with all of that, but
You're welcome.
we'll discussing it and whatnot, but I don't have any questions. I think y'all pretty much well covered everything.
Everybody good? Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Like I said, it's a new way of putting board together now that holds us accountable. And we know the people that, know that you going in, what's your responsibility and what's gonna be expected of you. And that's, just like I told you, all the amount of people that thought about doing this and then they saw what it incurred and it is, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know you got a lot of classes and you have to know just as much as they know, if
Yeah.
not more.
If there's nothing else, anything else, any commissioner comments?
I don't know.
Ms. Vaughn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all for coming. Thank you for coming.